Hi guys, so today I would like to show you what I've been working on, and as you can see on my screen now, I've got this little code snippet, but the line we're going to be focusing on right now is line 9. So as you can see, first we've got these two macros that I've just created. The first is query and the second is query raw, which we could look into, but the most important one is query. So essentially what query allows you to do is you can write your query and it is checked at compile time. So for example, let's make a mistake intentionally here, and let's save this. You see instantly you get an error, right? Great. So how about we fix that again, and we get an error. And what if we don't put this at all? Again we get an error. But when we take that away, everything looks okay and it works now. So this is when you have a simple query. As you can see, we're not binding any variable here. Under the hood, this actually helps you generate something like this. So you have what's that? Okay, so under the hood, you actually generate. I'll zoom out a little bit so we can take this off. Okay. Let's see. Again, that was a demo malfunction, but anyway, let's save it and see how that looks. So when you're having a simple query, all you just need to do is this. Here, as you can see, we're not binding any variable, which means you can just, if you make any mistake, it's gonna catch it instantly. And again, let's zoom in a little bit. Again, you can then, let's see another example. You can have a binding here, so you can leave this empty. So how about if you want to write a more complex query? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy it from here. We've got one example from here. I'll just use this. So let's take that as an example, right? So imagine I've got this variable here and I have this query. So let's see what happens if we try to break one of these. Let's change this to maybe age, and let's change this to greater than, I don't know, 99, right? But rather than putting that, we can just interpolate that and use that binding. We're gonna get an error because we've got this parameter called age, but we're not using it here. So what happens when we change that? Let's put something like 102. As you can see, it works again. So what happens if we try to break one of these? Let's make a mistake in one of those. As you can see, we get an error. It tells us that there is no placeholder found in the SQL query for binding GE. So that's alerting us that one of the variables is broken. What if we do the same thing for name? We still get the same error. If we over, it tells us AME doesn't exist. So we have to fix it. What if we break that again and that is broken, and we go here, for example, let's rename that variable to AME. Again, it works again. So this essentially allows you to interpolate all these variables and parameters that you can then define here. You can either define this inline, in which case that works, or you can assign that to a variable and just use that in your code. Another thing we can test is, let's say we miss one of these commas. What happens? We get an error. Perfect. Let's save that. What if we misspelled the way? we get an instant feedback again. What if we miss that? Again, we get an instant feedback. What else? Let's misspell and what happens? Again, we get an instant feedback. It's broken. And what if we don't use the equal sign? Yeah, we get an instant feedback. So the benefit of this is your queries are checked instantly. You get feedback. So the beautiful thing about Surreal or ARM or whatever I'm gonna call it is that not only does it support ORM functionality and query building functionality, which I'm gonna be showing you guys, but you can also write raw queries and it's gonna be checked instantly, which means this is gonna make your code a lot less error prone. And because you're getting the feedback instantly, you don't have to wait until you run your code before you know there's something wrong. Lastly, or maybe semi, I'm gonna show you how you can use multiple queries here. So let's copy that. All right, let's give that a little bit of gap. You know what, I might just leave that. Okay, so let's check this last one. As you can see, we've got the first query and we've got the second one here, and we can bind all the variables used in this. So for example, we're binding ID here. Let's see what happens. Let's try perhaps we could try score. Let's save that. Again, we get an error, and what does it tell us? It says there is no placeholder found in SQL query for binding ID. Perfect. So we know this doesn't exist, and we can then update this. Let's use score. Maybe we use something juicier. Perfect, that works. So what happens when we break this also? Again, what does it tell us? It tells us that binding queues, of course, doesn't exist. So let's fix that. We'll rename that and it exists. If we break it here also, what happens? It says no placeholder found for it. Again, it's checking all our queries. What if we remove that sign? What happens? It complains about it because this is meant to be a parameter, and the way you indicate that something is a parameter is by using the, I believe, $sign rather. And for this, let's put something different here. Let's use interpolation here also. Be aware that you can use any name you desire here. Now it's complaining because we're parameterizing company name, but we haven't added it here. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do is company. Bam. Did you notice that? That was intentional on my part. As you can see, it still throws an error because we're trying to use the placeholder company in place of company name. So we can fix that by using company name. And this is the beauty of it. If we over this, you actually see that it returns a query response. If you know how this works in surrealdb, what you can do is actually, let's maybe start with the user. This is a query response. Let's unwrap it, and when we do that, it gives us the response, right? And you can actually just take the response. Let's say you just want to select the user, right? You can take it and we can create a struct user with ID 10, right? And what else? And let's say name string. Of course, we have to derive serialize and deserialize. Let's see if we can import those two. Awesome. So what we can do is take that. I believe we can do it in two ways. User, let's be sure. So query user is not satisfied. I believe this probably has to be an option, right? So we can use a turbo fish there, and of course you can always use whatever you want here. You can unwrap this, then this gives you the user. Of course, if you like, you can do whatever you want. You can abstract all this away, and if you're returning a result that can be coerced, you can just do something like this, right, to simplify your code. So that is the demo I wanted to show you guys. I'm excited about this whole thing, and there's a lot more I'm still working on, but this was one of the most exciting one I was looking forward to. So let's take that back anyway. So the importance of this is that we're able to check our queries at compile time, which means you don't even have to run your queries before you check them. And that's the demo. I love you guys. I'll be showing you more in the future. See you guys. Bye.